welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessalyn Tester from thatchristianmom.com. If you're new here, you will find lots of videos where I share my love for online marketing and how you can successfully work from home. And then I also tend to share a lot about my personal faith. So if either or both of these things are of interest to you, please be sure to hit the subscribe button and click the bell for notifications so that you're informed of new weekly videos. Now, the statistics that I shared with you in the beginning of this video were actually from Revival Outside the Walls, and I will drop the link in the description below so that you can check out that resource for yourself. There's a lot more statistics that are listed there as well. And while I was reading through these statistics, I felt a mixture of emotions. I felt alarmed, I felt saddened, and then again, I also was not all that surprised. In the Bible, in 2 Thessalonians, Paul talks about how in the end times, we will experience a great falling away of the church before Jesus's return. And for those of us believers who are paying any attention to what's going on in the world right now, we believe that we are in fact in those end times where we are experiencing a great falling away of the church. Well, I'm going to be sharing with you today what I believe from my own experience is the biggest problem going on in the church today. And because I really try not to dwell in the problems of life and I prefer to live in the solution, I'm also going to be sharing with you by the end of this video 4 key points that I think could really help us to resolve or at least reduce this particular problem that's going on in the church. I actually watched a video about a month ago where someone else shared their thoughts on this, and what they believe that the biggest problem is in the church today is that we are not being bold in our faith, that we are not being confident and having the courage to spread the gospel and to stand for biblical truth. And I do believe, I agree with that this is one of the bigger problems in the church. And I believe that, we need to seek out His Word. We need to learn and know His Word. And once we've sought out that wisdom, we've learned that wisdom, then we can't compromise it for anything. That we can't water down His truth for the sake of being loved by the rest of the world. And that can be really scary and really hard to do because no one enjoys being persecuted. But of course, it is very important to do. However, like I said, I do think that there is another major problem that's going on within the church today that's worth being discussed. Real quick, I want to give you a super brief summary on my background, so maybe this can help others to understand where I'm coming from. I wasn't raised in a Christian home. I didn't have that foundation, and I didn't come to know Christ until much later on in my life. And I am so thankful for my husband because he was very strategically placed in my path when he was placed in my path. And although we had a very rocky roller coaster relationship prior to marriage, I know that he was a vessel that was used to leading me to Christ. And in my earlier years, my experiences with the church were not positive. They were not favorable experiences, and they actually did play a significant role in me pushing away from God, from me not wanting to pursue a relationship with Him or draw closer to Him whatsoever. But I also shared in my last video that those difficult and those challenging experiences in life are often a way for God to teach us something. And they give us the ability to have love and compassion and empathize with others who are also going through those similar things. So when I look back and I reflect on my early experiences with the church, it helps me to have love and compassion for those who have not come to know Christ or who have expressed that they've been scarred by the church or turned off by the church in any way. And that's why my personal belief is that the biggest problem that we have going on in the church today is that we are too busy talking the talk and not walking the walk. We've become more about doing and less about being. Sure, we can spout off the scriptures, but even Satan knows the scriptures. We have to be doers of the word and not just hearers of the word. We have to obey the scriptures. And I believe that the greatest way that we can lead others to Christ is by living out the word through our own example. I just think that unfortunately for too many, it has become more about religion and less about having a real relationship with Him. The Bible instructs us to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. It also tells us that we have to remove the plank from our eye before being able to clearly see the speck in another's. There's another statistic that says that 85% of the people who choose not to pursue a relationship with God is because they believe that Christians are hypocritical. No, we can't be expected to be perfect people. That's an unrealistic expectation. But because of my own experiences, I can certainly relate and understand why unbelievers feel this way. I believe that if we humbled ourselves and if we put away our prideful nature, the very prideful nature that God hates, and if we focus solely on just surrendering our will to Him, and if we were really intentional about correcting our own sin, then we would be much more effective for the kingdom and we wouldn't have as big of a problem as we have in the church today. We were placed on this earth with a purpose and with a mission, which is to lead others to Christ. And I truly believe that the most effective way to do that is just by walking as Jesus walked and living our lives as a reflection of His. So I want to share 4 key things today that I think will really help us to remember. They're things that I want to try to keep in mind in my own daily living. And I think that if we focused on these things, I really truly believe that it would help reduce this problem going on with the church today. If we're honest here, ladies, we can be very catty sometimes. And I think that we are very quick to look at another or think something about another that maybe we shouldn't think based upon the way that they look on the outside. And God doesn't judge us by our appearances. He doesn't judge us by the outside. He judges by the inside. He judges us by our hearts. Many people don't feel welcome in the church because they feel judged by the way that they look. Maybe they have a lot of tattoos or a lot of piercings, or maybe they're dressed in a way that's not so conservative. But we know as mature believers that modesty is important. However, someone who is new in their faith or that's not a believer at all, they should feel comfortable to come as they are and not ever feel the risk of being judged. This is a really big one. This is something that I unfortunately see happening a lot and that I've even experienced myself, but we are to lovingly hold other brothers and sisters in Christ accountable. There is a major difference between righteous judgment, which we are to have for our fellow brothers and sisters, and then condemnation. So in James, the Bible instructs us to try to lead others back who have gone astray. And in Matthew, it even teaches us the correct method to addressing someone that we feel may have wrongfully sinned against us. But in no way, shape, or form are we allowed to attack each other or to criticize each other, belittle, or gossip about each other. None of these things are okay in God's eyes. We're all at a different point in our spiritual walk. I know that I am at a different point today than I was 5 years ago, and God is still working things out in me, just like He's doing the same for everyone else that's pursuing that relationship with Him. We have never arrived, and that is why it is so important to give each other grace the same way that God extends His grace to us. We aren't to tear each other down, We're to encourage each other. We aren't to think that we have the power to fix someone else on our own. And we aren't to ever think that we are better than anyone else. I think sometimes too that we get a little bit too wrapped up in, like I said, the doing part of things and the works. I think sometimes we think we've got to prove to God that we are worthy of His love and of salvation. And maybe that's because we just can't comprehend how He could love us so much when a lot of the time we're really undeserving of it. But that's who God is. It's not our job to go around beating each other over the head with Bible verses, and we don't have to hold a certain position of honor within the church in order to validate our standing with God. The Bible says that faith without works is dead. So yes, we have to have faith. We cannot please God without faith. And when we have that faith, we will also apply it in our lives with action. We need to keep moving and we need to keep striving for spiritual growth. But in Ephesians, it clearly reminds us that we are saved by grace and not by our own works. Jesus spent a lot of his time with the less popular crowd. He wasn't at all concerned about cliques, and he met the needs of those that were hungry, thirsty, sick, impoverished, imprisoned. And he said by us serving those individuals ourselves that we were not merely serving them, but we were serving him. So as I mentioned before, salvation is earned through our faith alone. However, for the redeemed, we want to do what is good, and that means being intentional to get outside of the four walls of the church and to give and to love and to sacrifice and extend our service to those that are going through especially difficult situations. We are only to gain of him as much as we are willing to give of ourselves. So as I end this, I just want us to remember, I want to encourage us to remember what Paul says in 2 Corinthians when he says that we need to test ourselves to see if we are in the faith. We're not supposed to test our neighbor. We're not supposed to test our friends or our family or our pastor. We're to test ourselves. I believe that if we did that consistently, that we would see a lot of change within the church and as a result throughout the rest of the world. So my prayer is that we can come together as a whole and bear more fruit for the kingdom and cause a lot less division and discord. As always, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, so please be sure to comment them below. And please make sure that if you like this video that you give it a thumbs up. You're free to share it if you feel led to, and don't forget to subscribe before you go. I thank you so much for watching today. I love you all. God bless you all, and I'll see you next time.